Welcome to Community Cocktails with Kimberly, hosted by Kimberly Woodard, a realtor who's been selling homes in North Texas with more than 21 years of experience. Join her every first and third Wednesday of the month as she meets with top community leaders, local businesses, and real estate industry experts to help you get to know the area you want to call home. Don't just love your home, love your community. And now your host, Kimberly Woodard.
Welcome, viewers, to this episode of Community Cocktails with Kimberly. This is such an episode that is dear to my heart. As many of you all know, I am with Ebby Halliday Realtors, and today I have the privilege of having Mary Poss here. And she is also with Ebby Halliday Realtors as a realtor, but she also runs our Ebby Halliday Foundation. And so we are going to have such a treat of really getting to know who Ebby was and how this foundation came about. Thank you, Mary, for coming.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's good to see you.
Yes, it is. Well, you know, we were talking before camera started rolling, and you know, Ebby was such an icon, and not just here in Dallas, but around the whole United States. I mean, people knew Ebby Halliday, and so let's educate our viewers about who this remarkable lady really was, an icon of our industry and our area.
Well, I once had a reporter call me and ask me who was winning the yard sign wars. It was political campaign underway. Asked me who was winning the yard sign wars in my neighborhood, and I said, Ebby Halliday, because everybody knew Ebby Halliday.
I love that. Well, go Ebby.
Go Ebby.
People probably thought she was running for something at some time.
She won every yard sign.
I love it. She was such a remarkable lady. I mean, just from the time that she started, she was one of those icons that we looked up to, because she really set the stage. Not just in the industry, but just in times of a career-driven woman, back in the times that she started selling real estate.
But she was a very brilliant, very talented businesswoman, and really knew how to make things happen. Yeah. I don't know if you've read the book, but there's a story in there about when Ebby was selling hats.
Yes,
and it's a true story. That Mrs. Murkison was having breakfast with her husband one morning, and she told him that she had to go pick up her new hat, and he said to her, well, now I want you to tell that lady, if she can sell you those crazy hats, then maybe she can sell my crazy houses that are not selling. So the message was passed along, and of course, Ebby immediately followed up. Yeah. She called Mr. Murkison, introduced herself, they met, and she looked at the houses, which were really little boxes.
Right.
And very plain Jane. And that moment, I think Ebby probably invented what we know as staging today. She got some drapes, she got some rugs, she did some things to warm up the units.
Yes.
And then she stood outside those units, and the area had really been kind of a hunting area until it had been cleared for the houses. And along came two hunters. And she grabbed them, showed them the houses. They were impressed. Oh, wow. They went back and they got their wives, brought their wives back, and they bought the houses.
Oh, wow.
Now, one of those buyers was Mr. Halliburton. And Mr. Halliburton really liked Ebby.
Yes.
And he took Ebby around to parties, and they, just got to know each other socially, and he and his wife and Ebby. And he introduced her to a lot of people in town, and that really, really helped kick off her business.
Oh, definitely.
It's absolutely a true story. The book should have been called From Hats to Houses.
Yes, definitely. Well, I love, you selling houses, and then she really did, how you describe, she really did start staging at that early stage because that's what we do.
As far as we know on record, that's the first staging that took place.
Wow.
And she knew instantly, what it took to sell.
She did.
So, but she was also an incredibly caring person.
She was.
Incredibly caring. I knew Ebby about 40 years. And there was about a 45-year age difference. But the minute we met down in Galveston, we just hit it off and became friends. And my husband, Mike, and I were very fortunate that we got to pal around with Ebby for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And at least once a week, we go to some type of charity event together. We would do something together. In fact, I was with Ebby the morning of 9/11.
Oh, wow.
She and I were over at Thanksgiving Square with our district attorney and a number of other people, and we were working on planning an International Prayer Day in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
Which sadly never happened because of 9/11.
Right.
But in all those years, I never heard Ebby say a negative word about anybody.
Wow.
She never had a negative word. She saw the good in everybody.
She did. And, her motto, it was always to try and do something good for.
Do something for someone else every day.
And
And she meant it. And she did. And she didn't go to sleep until she made sure she had done that. And she'd also sent 5 thank you notes every day.
And I have, I was going through some of my archive, old things from being in the business. And I have found a couple of, handwritten things that she, and I mean, her penmanship was amazing. I wish mine was like that. But it's just, she was such a dear lady. We were talking, before, and I said, when I joined Ebby back in 2001, I was in Ebby school, and she pulls me out, and I get pulled out, and I'm like, everyone's like, oh, you're in trouble. I'm like, oh, I'm this young, young girl at that time, just got
Wondered
into
what you have done.
what I do. And she and my husband's grandparents, like I said, hung out, and she was reminiscing about those times. And it was, just so so neat that they, that connection and those times. My husband's a 4th and 5th generation Dallasite, and, so, it makes Dallas seem very small when things like that happen. Versus, people move into our metroplex and like, oh my gosh, this place is huge. There are those connections, and that it makes it more of a small town.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. But it was the caring
it is.
that made Ebby really successful. I mean, she was smart, really smart, quick. She sized up an individual very, very fast. She was shrewd in many ways.
Yes.
But it was the caring that made her successful. She didn't want to sell someone a home that wasn't a good home,
Right.
or a home that wasn't right for them. Because what was really important to her wasn't the paycheck. It was that person being happy.
Right.
And years later, when they were ready to sell, that they called her back.
Right.
Because they were so happy with the home that she had sold them.
Yep. And I always tell people, if I'm not moving in, you're moving in. And I want you to be happy. I want to call you in 3 months when you're all settled, and I want to come see your furniture and all, and you be so delighted about your home and excited and just loving it. That's what I want to see. Because I know that I did my job. You did what you were, you've got that connection. Now, of course, things like, life happens as things happen. So there are other things. But that's, that's the part, and that's the joy of it. I mean, it's so joyful to see. And I've had those, I try and I think live my career like Ebby, did, and, really putting other people first, and, doing good things for people. I think she was just a remarkable person. Well, we were talking about this, and I remember driving on the highway. Ebby would drive, there's a long Tundra drive. You would see Ebby 1 Cadillac license plates on the highway. You knew it was her. I mean, the lady drove to the office down in off Sigma, where our office was, and I was like, oh my gosh, like she's she's driving on the highway, and it was just remarkable. But you said you have a story when she finally stopped.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what her age was, around 95. And she we were really close, and she was really close to my husband too. Yeah. She kind of adopted Mike Poss. One morning I was at the chamber, and my phone was ringing, and it kept ringing. And I said, excuse me, I better see what's going on. And I called back, and it was a judge. And he said, Mary, are you sitting down? And I said, no. And of course, your heart's already fallen when you hear those words. He said, now, Ebby's okay, but. And then my heart really fell. But what he told me was that he had been behind her. He had witnessed the accident. She had pulled out. She did hit someone. She was standing in the street with him, apologizing to the person over and over and over again. And of course, a big red Cadillac with Ebby across it. And so anyway, I did call my husband, and I said, Mike, I think you probably ought to hide, because I think people are going to want to take Ebby's keys away today. Yeah. But she went back to the office. She sat in her office a few minutes, I think, and she walked out, and she handed Betty Turner her keys and said, Betty, I think I've decided I'm going to use a driver from now on. And she did. Wow. She was smart. Yes. She knew when it was time to throw in the towel.
Wow.
She was really, really smart about that.
Wow, that's very
And she cared.
Yes.
She didn't hurt that person.
No.
And that was really important. I mean, caring, she was one of the most caring individuals that you will find. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why the Ebby Foundation is so important.
Yes.
Because we continue that legacy. We continue that opportunity to help people the same way that Ebby would have helped.
And I love that. Let's let's dive into the Ebby Foundation and some of the things that it's done. It was started after her passing back in 2016. She was 104, which just blows my mind. It's when I was looking back at it seems like yesterday. I was we were celebrating her 100th birthday.
That was a party.
That was a great party. And I was looking back, I still have, my pictures with her, in my office. And just, again, it seems like yesterday that, we were celebrating these milestones for her. And I, can't believe, she's passed, and it's been that many years. But the foundation was started, and let's talk about the impact that foundation has had on the community.
Well, we were very fortunate to have the foundation. It was started by Ebby, with a real focus on people who really didn't have access or have real resources. She cared a lot about women and girls.
Right.
And we try to remember that focus when we're making a decision about a grant. If something is extremely well-funded, they have lots of money and lots of influence, and, that might not be the person that Ebby would fund. She would care about the person that might not have that ability to get the help.
Yes.
And so we've done a few, grants to groups that are serving in those directions. And certainly we've done significant grants with the North Texas Food Bank.
Yes.
Because Ebby cared, we care about the fact that there are so many people who are still food insecure every single day.
It is remarkable.
And it's a heartbreaking number of kids that have to wonder about where their next meal is coming from, or parents that don't have a meal because they've given whatever they have to their kids.
And I think you brought a point up, is that's something that I don't think people, especially in our areas of, the North Texas area, people just see the more affluent, parts of it and don't realize that we really do. In some of the most affluent towns in our Metroplex, we have people who are, needing, the North Texas Giving Bank and are needing to take on these services because they don't have the resources to feed.
It's actually an issue that you find in every zip code.
Yep.
You find more of it in some zip codes, certainly.
Right.
But it's out there in every zip code. You're going to a lunch meeting tomorrow.
Yes.
That's benefiting primarily people in Plano, Frisco.
Yeah.
And those are not zip codes that people normally think of as needing help.
No,
but
they don't.
But they do.
They do. And it's all over. And it's something that I think we kind of get in our bubbles, where we see everything in one light. And I've tried to do this with my 2 boys and raising them, is to see outside of their bubble and see actually what is going on in the real world out there, not just their little nucleus bubble, and to give back. I feel like, and that's what, Ebby always did. She was always giving. She was a giving lady, always giving back. She was very successful, very, just remarkable. But she always knew that the priority was to give back,
And there were a lot of people around who really loved Ebby and really admired her for her generosity and her caring. I mean, a lot of people don't know these things, but Ross Perot used to call Ebby at least once a week.
Wow.
And check with her and make sure she was doing well. Boone Pickens, would call her and talk to her all the time. Famous, well-known, busy people. Dirk called her about once a month. Dirk had a party for her when she had her 100th birthday. In fact, that was about 3 months of celebrations.
Oh, yeah.
Because there were so many people that wanted to honor and recognize Ebby.
She was, I love the picture of her, Dirk. I just love that.
Oh, yeah.
It's priceless. He's just the guy is tall. I've run into him several times at where I play tennis.
But those are people that had some of the same genes that Ebby did.
Yes.
Caring,
giving back.
People that can do anything in the world, and yet they take the time to really care about the underserved, people who are truly in need.
And I think that's, and that's why her legacy lives on, is because, she did. And I think, what's remarkable is that with the foundation, and even within, our offices, you're always seeing that we're always doing something to, give back to the community. We're all busy, everyone's busy, everyone's, trying to make a living, doing their stuff, but we also find time to give back to our communities and, give back and to help out the communities that we serve. So,
well, those contributions and that time spent at those many, many, many charitable events over Ebby's life. And like I said, I was involved with that for, many, many years. And I mean, it really meant so much to her.
Yeah.
And she never went to bed at night until she had thanked everyone that had done something for her. And she made sure that she had done everything that she could for anyone that she knew that needed help.
And I love that point, is that I think everyone, should take that home to heart and, embed that into their own, own life,
Well, imagine what the world would be if everybody did.
It would be wonderful. Well, this has been remarkable. Again, I mean, I think, Ebby, I love that her legacy lives on through all of us, and then, of course, the foundation. And here, we're going to cheers to Ebby Halliday.
Cheers to Ebby.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple and Spotify, as well as Kimberly's YouTube channel. If you'd like to contact Kimberly directly, you can email her at kimberlywoodard@ebby.com or call 214-632-2092. We hope you enjoyed our guest this week, and remember, don't just love your home, love your community.